Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and dear audience. First off, happy Valentine's Day. On behalf of the Bangladesh High Commission in Ottawa, I welcome all of you to today's special webinar to celebrate the 50th year of Bangladesh-Canada relationship. This webinar has been jointly organized by the High Commission in collaboration with Bangabandhu Center for Bangladesh Studies in Canada. This is being live streamed in Bangabandhu Center, Channel ATV, Cable TV, and High Commission's social media channels. Before I begin, let me do the treaty recognition. Bangabandhu Center for Bangladesh Studies is located on original lands of Anishinaabe Cree, Oji Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the homelands of Metis Nation. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Ladies and gentlemen, as known, Canada was one of the first major countries that recognized Bangladesh early. Through Canada's recognition, the two countries established the formal diplomatic relationship on 14 February 1972 and partnership, an unbridled cooperation that commenced. Canada's support to build the war-ravaged country was very useful. Since the government led by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina came back to power in 2009, the relation between the two countries marched towards new dimensions. The partnership has been consolidated and reached to a new height. Now the two countries are working towards a comprehensive partnership based on shared values, interests, and priorities. To commemorate the historic occasion of recognition, the Bangladesh High Commission in Ottawa has planned a series of activities throughout the year, and the first such event is taking place now, which is focusing on the successful partnership between the two friendly countries, over with special focus on the areas where two countries can work together in the future with a shared vision for mutual benefits. The audience, in this event, we have invited eminent personalities from Canada and Bangladesh, and without further ado, let me introduce them to you. Although they need no introduction per se, their contribution in policymaking and human rights related issues are noteworthy. First, let me introduce Honorable Member of Parliament, Brad Redekop from West Saskatchewan. Welcome, sir. Brad has been active in providing leadership within his community, participating in several boards, including the Bridge on 20th for over 17 years. 10 of those years as board chair, where he spearheaded the renovation and expansion of their facility during a period of unprecedented growth. Brad has also volunteered with the City of Saskatoon Housing First Committee and Ride for Refugee. Other involvements have included teaching personal finance classes and conversational English to newcomers in the community. He is also a patron with the Bangabandhu Center for Bangladesh Studies in Canada. Now let me introduce Mr. Paul Topil, Assistant Deputy Minister, Global Affairs Canada. Welcome you, sir. And he's the Asia Pacific, he's the ADM and Global Affairs Canada with Asia Pacific at Global Affairs. Previously, he worked as the Director General, Foreign Affairs and International Trade in Canada, and Minister of Commercial and Senior Trade Commissioner at the Embassy of Canada to Japan, and Chief Financial Officer of Aboriginal Affairs and Northern Development Canada. Now, let us welcome Ambassador Muhammad Shahid Al-Haq. Welcome, sir. He's now a professorial fellow at the North-South University, Bangladesh, and as an advisor on migration and humanitarian policies of IOM Dhaka. He was the Foreign Secretary of Bangladesh from January 2013 to December 2019. Mr. Haq also served as a Director for Migration Policy and IOM Global Relations based in Geneva from 2009 to 2012. Then we have Dr. Nuzhat Tam Zaman. She's the co-founder and Vice President Consumer Health Sinoveda based in Edmonton. Welcome, ma'am, to the show, to this event. And finally, we have Mr. Rabiul Alam, who joined from British Columbia, and who is also enjoying his retirement at this point in time. He led numerous initiatives to support the liberation war of Bangladesh in 1971 from Canada. So having introduced the guests today, ladies and gentlemen, let me also add that we have a special guest present today at the High Commission in Ottawa, and he is Mr. David Drake, Ambassador and former Director General, International Security and Intelligence Bureau, Department of Foreign Affairs, Trade Development, and National Defense Committee. Sir, welcome to you as well. As the Director General, Mr. Drake was responsible for the management of the foreign policy dimension of all of Canada's defense and security relationships. His bureau was also responsible for our relationships with other bilateral allies and partners, as well as engagement with key multilateral security organizations such as NATO for security and cooperation in Europe, and Canada's commitment to the US-led anti-ISIS coalition. Dear audience, we have a surprise today. To mark this special occasion, we'd like to request Ambassador Drake to kindly present to His Excellency High Commissioner of Bangladesh in Ottawa, on behalf of his family, a watercolor painted by the famous Bangladeshi painter Jainul Abidin, and he is considered to be the founding father of Bangladeshi modern art. The painting was bought by his father, former Ambassador Earl Drake, who served at the Canadian High Commission to Pakistan from 1956 to 58, and who purchased it directly from the painter in Dhaka in 1957, when he was on official business in what has been then East Pakistan. By means of this private donation, this family heirloom of work by a great Bangladeshi artist, masterpiece and patriot is now finding its way back home by means of its donation to the High Commission in time for this auspicious moment. Ambassador David Drake and notably his father had close relations with Bangladesh, and they stand as representatives and witnesses of Bangladesh-Canada's commitment prior to and throughout the 50 years of cooperation that we are celebrating today. Without further ado, let's have the exchange of presentation. So I think we are just waiting for the presentation. Okay. If not, shall we proceed then to the next part? And
we have done the presentation, he missed it, but the others, I think, so.
Okay, thank you. So having introduced our esteemed speakers this evening, let me have the privilege to welcome His Excellency, the High Commissioner of Bangladesh to Canada, Dr. Khalilur Rahman, to share his initial thought with us, and we'll get back to our original discussion part just later on. Sir, floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Yeah, when you are, speaking, we did that presentation. Thank you, Ambassador Drake, for this kind, gesture and generosity of your great father. So please convey our gratitude and greetings to him on this very special day. Good evening. Basically, Dr. Ahmed, you have said it all in your introduction. So let me first of all extend our warm welcome to the Honorable Member of Parliament, Excellencies, experts, and other distinguished guests and speakers to this virtual seminar to mark this auspicious occasion of 50 years of Bangladesh-Canada diplomatic relations. I just would like to congratulate the Government of Canada and the people of Canada for their generosity, for their support during our war of liberation, and also subsequent recognition and support to our reconstruction immediately after the independence. Whatever you have said that, we have excellent relations now between the two countries. But, in addition to that, we are also working with Canada in a number of multilateral issues, including global peace and security, climate change, Rohingya issues, etc. But, during my time as High Commissioner, I have also taken several initiatives to diversify our partnership by exploring new areas of cooperation like education, research, people-to-people contact, mobility, culture, defense, and security. And strengthening cooperation in trade and investment issues has been identified as a thrust area. And I also like to reiterate that the excellent relations between the two countries were deeply rooted, not only during the time of our liberation and subsequent recognition, but it is also following the visit of the founding father, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, to Ottawa, Canada in 1973, that ushered a new horizon of friendship and cooperation for the people and for the governments in both countries. So today, Bangladesh, we have achieved phenomenal growth under the dynamic and visionary leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, and we aspire to be a developed nation by 2041. We have already graduated as a middle income country, and Canada was one of our trusted and tested friend in our developmental journey. And in our journey until 2041, I hope and I'm sure Canada and its people will remain a major partner in our becoming a developed nation. So today, this is not my time to speak. We have distinguished speakers. So let them to tell us how in next 50 years or in days ahead, years ahead, the relations should look like. I think different speakers will be highlighting different areas. And I like to request them to really tell us, guide us, provide your views and thoughts that how the two countries, at least me as High Commissioner and Bangladesh as a country, can focus or should focus. And I'm sure our Canadian brothers, friends, and partners, they will respond, they will reciprocate our efforts. So with that, I return the floor to you to just request the distinguished guest speakers to make their statement and provide us these views, thought, and advice on how we can take our journey forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, His Excellency, for your wonderful remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Honorable Member of Parliament, Nathan Erskine-Smith with us. Sir, welcome. And let me briefly introduce, which I didn't do in the beginning. Honorable MP is from Beaches, East York, Ontario. He sits on the Standing Committee on Industry, Science and Technology. He also sits on the Executive Committee of the Canadian Group of Inter-Parliamentary Union, in short IPU, as past president. In his role as president, he has represented Canada at parliamentary conferences around the world, and he is also the chair of the Bangladesh Parliamentary Friendship Group. Sir, welcome to our session today. And you are right on time because I'm going to invite you now to speak a few words and share your thoughts about the ongoing and future Canada-Bangladesh relationship. The screen is yours, sir.
Well, thanks very much. And I appreciate that I'm also joined by my colleague, Brad. I mean, together we both represent large Bangladeshi communities, and we're not alone. Colleagues of ours from all parties have, I would say, a really important obligation in representing Bangladeshi communities, because there's such a, and Brad, I'm sure will speak to this too, but there's such a powerful connection to both countries for so many. And so I know here in Beaches, East York, and there's a fake boundary of Victoria Park between my riding and Bill Blair's riding, but the community crosses both, and really all across the city. And they have been such powerful they're so powerfully involved in our politics, but I know very involved in their own politics back home. And so many people have a foot in both places and maintain strong connections. And those connections you see in so many different ways, whether it is, and you mentioned the close connection from the very beginnings of Bangladesh, where our prime minister was one of the first to our then prime minister Trudeau was one of the first to recognize the independence of Bangladesh. But you also see it in the Canadian connection and Bangladesh connection, where when International Mother Language Day was recognized by UNESCO, there was a Canadian connection there too. And I think we continue to see the lessons to be learned now that it is an international movement in many ways, back growing from the language martyrs movement, but just the centrality of language to culture. And we see that as we navigate really difficult conversations about our own past here in Canada and the need to protect and restore Indigenous languages. It comes back to that central truth, I think, of the centrality of language to culture and to one's sense of identity. And I guess I would just emphasize in the Toronto context. And this International Mother Language Day is particularly important because we have, for the first time, a monument here in Beaches, East York, that is a partnership as between the City of Toronto and the Bangladeshi community, and incredible efforts to realize it. But in Dentonia Park, we have a new monument that has been built that, depending upon how the pandemic-related restrictions go, we'll hopefully have a ceremony there and be able to lay wreaths there. And it's been, I think, just a really important aspect of our community over the last number of years, the 6 years that I've been doing this, certainly, to participate in that and to just see the just how committed people are to that idea, that people are willing to stand out. It's not so cold in Dhaka on February 21st, but it is a testament to the power of language that people are laying wreaths in at midnight on February 20th, heading into the 21st. And just because you mentioned my role in the IPU, I guess I close by saying I had the good fortune in my role with the IPU to attend a conference in Dhaka. I was not able to visit too much of the country apart from Dhaka, but in keeping with our close connections today, especially in the joint efforts around Rohingya refugees, I hope to get back to Bangladesh and see a little bit more than Dhaka the next time I go. And so I think that continued friendship is incredibly important, that we continue to build upon it in a nonpartisan way. And so, as I say, I'm very glad to be joined by Brad.
Thank you, Honorable MP, for your wonderful remarks. And on behalf of the audience and the growing Bangladeshi diaspora, let me also assure you that you are always welcome to Bangladesh, and definitely we are going to host you in your next visit, sir. So we are moving on to our next speaker. Let me invite Honorable Member of Parliament, Brad Redekop. Sir, we'd like to know from you how Bangladeshi students and young talents can be drawn to Canada to contribute to innovation and in Canada, and also therefore enhancing economic relationship between the two countries, because we are aware that you have chaired a session recently in the House of Commons. So, sir, screen is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here today, and to Dr. Ahmed and High Commissioner Rahman and my colleague Nathaniel and all the other distinguished guests. It's a pleasure to be here, and welcome everyone. I'm proud to be here on behalf of Canada's Conservatives and the leader of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition, Candace Bergen, on this historic occasion of the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relationships between Bangladesh and Canada. And it makes me very proud to know that Canada was there for Bangladesh 50 years ago and led the world in recognizing Bangladesh. And it's great to see all the progress made by Bangladesh over the years. And a big part of that progress involves my home province of Saskatchewan. Canada and Saskatchewan enjoy warm relations with Bangladesh. Saskatchewan has strong economic ties with Bangladesh. We're the largest exporter of pulse crops, which are lentils, peas, and other staples that make up the Bengal diet. In Saskatchewan, the Bangladeshi community is known for its hard work and its perseverance. The Bangladeshi Community Association has done great work in its 12 years in Saskatoon, bringing Canadians and Bangladeshis together. Canada is the third largest destination for Bangladeshi students looking to study abroad. We are fortunate to have your High Commissioner of Bangladesh, Dr. Rahman, at the Immigration Committee last week, and he had a single message for us, and that was that Canada needs to add Bangladesh to Immigration Canada's student direct stream. So simply put, the student direct stream would put international students coming from Bangladesh on the same footing that students coming into Canada from India and Pakistan already enjoy. Saskatchewan's world-class schools like the University of Saskatchewan and Saskatchewan Polytechnic benefit from international students attending from countries such as Bangladesh. Indeed, Bangladesh is experiencing a 400% growth rate in students coming to Canada and has surpassed Pakistan for overall numbers in 2017, yet it's still not part of the student direct stream. So some key facts that are important to know. First of all, Bangladesh is a major export market of Saskatchewan pulse crops, as I said, and the technical expertise that these students can gain and take home could expand our markets even more. Second, by being in Saskatchewan, the students and our farmers get a chance to interact. And this allows our exporters to know what Bangladeshi customers really want. And third, the cultural ties will allow economic opportunities to flourish beyond agriculture. And our province can benefit from bringing talent from Bangladesh and incorporating it into our economy and trade here in Canada. So speaking of talent, I have two great examples to share from my own community. Mr. Hassan Ahmed is a great leader in the Bangladeshi community in Saskatoon. He plays a key role in the Global Institute for Food Security at the University of Saskatchewan. And he's been very helpful, not just to our province and our city, but to me personally, as he has introduced me to many members of his community. The second example of talent is Mr. Muhammad Assad. He's the current president of the Bangladeshi Community Association and a significant business person in Saskatoon. And besides doing the taxes for thousands of local residents, he's found time to introduce me to many of the people in his community. And both men have been kind enough to bring me to various people within the community who invite me into their homes. The hospitality, honor, and respect of the Bangladeshi people is among the best in the world. And I'm honored every time I'm treated to that hospitality. And both men have taught me much about the joy and good nature of Bangladeshi people. And both men have taught me to love Bangladeshi food. And both men have made me want to visit Bangladesh. So I'm jealous, Nate, when you say you've already been there. I want to go there too. So I'm looking forward to that. So in conclusion, I'm honored today by your hospitality and by the invitation to give these brief remarks. And I want you to know that I'm doing everything I can to ensure that the Immigration Committee in Canada's House of Commons puts forward a recommendation that Bangladesh be part of the student direct stream. And I know that many of you watched and shared my Facebook post last week from the Immigration Committee. And honestly, I appreciate when the work that I do to help an issue like the Bangladesh student direct stream is actually acknowledged and known. And it certainly makes it easier for us as members of parliament to know that we're on the right track. So once again, congratulations on 50 years of diplomatic relations with Canada. It is indeed an honor to be your friend. And I look forward to the next 50 years of friendship and hopefully many more. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Member of Parliament, Brad Redekop, for your inspiring words. And I'm sure hundreds and hundreds of Bangladeshi students and those who are still willing to come to Canada for studies, it's a very good news. And we will wait for the final decision of SDS coming very soon. Thank you very much for your kind support, and all the credit goes to you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, let's invite Assistant Deputy Minister, Mr. Paul Topil, to our room now. And we would like him to comment on the bilateral and collaborative matters between Canada and Bangladesh. He has a wealth of experience in working in these sectors, as I've initially introduced. And most importantly, we'd be attentive to listen from him about future avenues of collaboration between these two wonderful nations. Assistant Deputy Minister, screen is yours, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. High Commissioner, distinguished guests, thank you for organizing this celebratory event and for inviting me to participate. Please permit me to acknowledge that I'm speaking on the unceded territory of the Anishinaabe peoples as Canada pursues its pathway of reconciliation with the Indigenous peoples of this land. It is my honor truly to join you and all these distinguished guests to celebrate today the 50th anniversary of Canada-Bangladesh bilateral relations. As we reflect on the 5 decades of friendship between our two countries, it is an opportunity to look back at our shared history and to reflect on what has changed and what has endured. Some of you may remember Mr. James Bartleman, a truly remarkable Canadian. Mr. Bartleman was a Métis of Mijanakan ancestry. He grew up in a poor household in rural Ontario and graduated from university thanks to an American benefactor who took a liking to him and paid his way. In 1966, he joined the Canadian Foreign Service, and in 1972, he was sent to open Canada's first diplomatic mission in Bangladesh. He went on to have a distinguished career, becoming Canada's head of mission to 5 different countries, to NATO, and eventually the foreign policy advisor to the Prime Minister Chrétien in the 1990s. In his memoirs, On 6 Continents, Mr. Bartleman describes the work of the Canadian High Commission in those first few months. As he describes it, the goals of the small High Commission team were to, quote, to deliver a massive aid program, consolidate diplomatic relations with the new government, launch a program of political and economic reporting, and set up a functioning High Commission from scratch, end quote. We estimate that Canada's development assistance at that time was approximately $60 million per year, or $370 million in today's figures. The challenges facing Bangladesh at that time were enormous. As Mr. Bartleman describes it, the effects of war were visible everywhere. Bridges destroyed, power lines down, the railway not functioning, and famine in the north and hunger everywhere. He goes on to describe some of what the Canadian aid program did at that time. We sent exports to Singapore to buy small cargo vessels able to get up the rivers to deliver wheat to the starving. Transport aircraft and crews flown in from Canada delivered food to the most affected areas. Canadian engineers arrived to help reestablish the power grid. Others worked to rehabilitate locomotives sabotaged in the fighting. Further on, he described support that Canada provided to build a ground satellite station to resume providing Bangladesh with reliable international telephone communications for the first time. These excerpts make for sobering reading. I do not doubt that for those of you who were in Bangladesh back then, that they bring back difficult memories. These memoirs serve, though, as an important reference point to reflect on how much has changed in the last 50 years since Mr. Bartleman opened the Canadian High Commission. Today, Bangladesh has made a remarkable transformation and enormous strides in development, including on child mortality, on nutrition, access to safe water, and economic growth, amongst others. Bangladesh's upcoming graduation from least developed country status is proof of this and a marker of significant achievement. Bangladeshi companies and organizations are now global leaders. In the private sector, the largest Canadian apparel companies now source garments from Bangladesh. They do so because they trust in the quality, the reliability, and the efficiency of Bangladeshi companies. In the public sector, BRAC, a long-standing partner of Canada, is recognized as both the world's largest and one of its most effective non-governmental organizations. In the research sector, ICDDRB, another long-standing Canadian partner, is widely seen as the premier health research institute for the entire developing world. 50 years ago, many Bangladeshis were returning home from India, where they had sought shelter from the violence of a war. Today, Bangladesh is now a place of shelter, supporting over 1 million Rohingya. I want to take a moment here to thank and acknowledge Mr. Shahid Al-Haq for his leadership over many years on this issue. You have been a respected and vital partner of Canada's throughout the years. On our end, Canada remains committed to doing our part to support Bangladesh and the Rohingya people. Since the start of the crisis, Canada has helped mitigate the impact of the refugee crisis on host communities through programming in areas such as livelihoods, community cohesion, education, and environment. We have also supported longer-term learning opportunities and health services for refugees. And of course, we are also committed to ensuring accountability for the perpetrators of human rights abuses in Myanmar, including through our ongoing work to support the case against Myanmar at the International Court of Justice. Development assistance remains an enduring element of our relationship. Today, Canada, together with other donors, support the government of Bangladesh's health, population, and nutrition sector development program and funds a number of projects addressing the government's goal to reduce child, early, and forced marriage. Canada's projects are aligned with the government's 8th five-year plan, promoting prosperity and fostering inclusiveness. But at the same time, our trade and people-to-people ties have flourished. In 2020, our bilateral trade reached a total of $2.77 billion. The Bangladeshi Canadian community, which we estimate to be nearly 100,000 strong, is now both an intrinsic part of our country and an important link between our two nations. There is now a Bangladeshi Canadian member of the Ontario Legislative Assembly, and I am sure it is only a matter of time before we have a Bangladeshi Canadian member of parliament. Another important change from 50 years ago is that Bangladesh is now an important contributor on the world stage, in peacekeeping, on climate change, and as a voice for less developing countries. To name just a few areas, Bangladesh is a recognized world leader. Canada and Bangladesh have been important partners in these areas, and I look forward to deepening our cooperation in the months and years to come. I note with particular pride the co-leadership of our ambassadors to the UN, Ambassadors Ray and Fatima, in leading the global effort to set the development agenda until 2030. So while much has changed, we can also reflect on what has endured. In particular, there is a spirit of goodwill, mutual respect, and partnership that we can hear in Mr. Bartleman's memoirs and that endures today. That spirit remains a strong foundation for Canada and Bangladesh to continue to make progress together. And with that, we can look forward with confidence to the next 50 years of our relationship. Thank you, Donabad.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Paul, for such a wonderful explanation of the history and how these two countries are tied together. And also, I think it's a wonderful segue to our next speaker in this session, who is a direct witness of Rohingya crisis and contributed personally into the resolution of the crisis itself. So now, without further ado, let me invite Ambassador Shahid Al-Haq to the floor and listen to his thoughts about ongoing Rohingya crisis and Canadian involvement and his vision for the future repatriation of the forcibly displaced Myanmar nationals to Myanmar. Sir, floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for inviting me, especially to Dr. Khalil, the High Commissioner, my very dear colleague, and also to the Assistant Deputy Minister, Mr. Paul Topil, and the other members of the parliaments. Thank you very much for jointly celebrating the 50 years of our relations. Bangladesh is a relatively young country when you talk about the numbers, but the country is on a land which is very old in terms of civilization. So it's a new country in an old civilization that we need to keep in mind. All the speakers have referred to the Canadian people's and the then government's contribution to the War of Liberation in 1971, which was led by our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and the subsequent relations. I was extremely touched to listen to the first ambassadors of Canada's book, and I was trying to recall, I was a very young kid in those days, still in the primary school, to see how much that we have progressed over the years. It's true, we didn't have enough boat bridges to communicate and take the necessary relief to the people who need it the most. Now, in terms of our relationship, and I'm extremely happy to be to be leading that from 1926 and 27, when we had third bilateral consultations in Canada. I remember it wasn't that cold. I think it's September, towards the end of the September, so 2016. So it was very comfortable. I really enjoyed my stay there. And then we hosted the fourth bilateral consultations in Dhaka in 2017. So thereby, I think we reached to a stage where I can say that our relationship is stable and matured. So that's important. The relationship between Bangladesh and Canada is, as Dr. Kausar has rightly pointed out, is very comprehensive. Now it goes to bilaterals, to diaspora linkage, to multilateral. I think our strength is also deeply rooted in the multilateral efforts. It's not only Rohingya, but peacekeeping, the climate change, the norm-setting exercises. Bangladesh, leading the least developed countries, and has always found Canada in close conformity in terms of norm-setting exercises within the UN, whether it is in the climate change area, peace building area, which is currently chaired by our PR in New York, Rabah Fatima, and other areas. That brings me to the issue of humanitarian area. I think our collaboration is most stronger and deeper in areas of humanitarian exercise globally, not only on the Rohingya issue. And I'm extremely delighted to see Bob Ray, the High Commissioner of Canada in New York. He has been a very good friend of Bangladesh and humanity at large. And I remember going around various places together, a very coordinated way to raise the humanitarian issue, and in particular the Rohingya issue. I remember that we met in Hague when the first time we had the ICG hearing, and shared common views and as to how to take this issue forward. So that's where it goes. I was looking at actually the Canadian humanitarian broad policy, and I was pretty delighted to see it spread, goes from the normative side to the very operational side, and it's part of the foreign policy where it takes much deeper roots, and we are extremely grateful. I want to sort of also mention the Canadian High Commissioner who just left Bangladesh, High Commissioner Benoit Prefontaine, who was a very good friend of Bangladesh, and really very capable, who supported not only in the Rohingya operation but overall development of Bangladesh in that context. So all in all, I think in 50 years, a lot has been achieved. I remember accompanying our Prime Minister, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, to meet Trudeau, and I saw the depth of their relationship. I think it runs through their parents' relationship. We also remember that not only that Bangabandhu visited Canada, but also Pierre Trudeau visited Dhaka. So and those were days when Bangladesh was very young, needed hand in a very deep crisis, and Canada came in quite encouragingly and with all the resources. So that's we deeply respect. Now, what happens next 50 years? I know our mission is currently in a very capable hand. Dr. Khalil, whom I knew from my not only government days but also in the international system days. So we are very confident and happy that he is running our bit of the game from Ottawa. Now, there are 3-4 areas that I want to mention, and I'll then stop. I think our relationship in terms of the government to government is very solid, good, historical roots. It is likely to grow, but it is the people to people contact. That's where it matters. And I'm extremely happy to hear Assistant Deputy Minister about 100,000 Bangladeshis. I thought the number will be hovering around 50,000, but I was happy to see it has reached to 50,000. In fact, my daughter is already studying at the Toronto University, so I keep quite updated about the Canada. So that's where I think the strength lies. It's not only in the area of education and technology, but also in terms of it's also very sort of a business oriented. We see Canadian firms working quite nicely in Bangladesh. So that's one. The other area that I thought that we can do a lot is the whole multilateral platform. You know? We are in a period where sort of kind of apprehension that are we leading into a next Cold War period, and if so, then the like-minded groups, the liberal democracies, how they will team up and how it will be. And I'm talking about the whole Indo-Pacific, and it's not only Indo-Pacific but also the old theater is warming up in terms of Russia versus Ukraine. So in these areas and in the context of peacekeeping in the relationship of Bangladesh and India, Bangladesh and Canada, that I would like to see, because in many places Bangladesh peacekeepers and the Canadian peacekeeper has actually worked together, and there are stories, very decent, nice, brave stories centers around that. So with this I'll end. So there are multiple ways that we can build our relationship, and I'm extremely happy and delighted to see all these people who are talking about the relationship. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Ambassador Shahid Al-Haq, for your eloquent speech. And very importantly, Ambassador Shahid mentioned people's to people's relationship. And I think this goes a long way. And another 50 years, we would be expecting, I would say, a very strong and solid people to people relationship between these two big nations and great nations. Ladies and gentlemen, let me invite now Ambassador Drake into the discussion. And we are hoping he would comment about security and cooperation between these two countries, given his long experience in this sector. And also those of many of you might be following what is happening in our country here. And we just saw a news, a couple of Twitter feed yesterday that Canadian Freedom Convoy is backed by a Bangladeshi marketing firm and right-wing fringe group. So, sir, screen is yours, and let's welcome and listen to you, sir.
Thank you very much. It's very kind to receive this invitation from the High Commissioner to partake in this momentous occasion and this particular broadcast and meeting, virtual meeting. I thank him very much. Really, my part in this is limited mostly to the transmittal of a family heirloom, which was bought from a great one of the great masters of Bangladeshi art by my father. So I'm really here to make sure that it returns to Bangladesh. But let me just say, you know, as I'm now retired from the Canadian government, but during my time in the government, I had the sad duty to be Canada's special envoy to Bangladesh with regard to the response to the Holy Artisan Bakery terrorist attack on July 1st, 2016, which unfortunately was masterminded by someone of both Canadian and Bangladeshi citizenship. I won't even mention his name. But it is an example of the global nature of the threat that we are dealing with, and it is an example that we need to work together. I myself am currently co-chair of the Global Counterterrorism Forum, which Canada is a key founding member. One thing which we work on is good practices, best practices, but perhaps good practices is a better term. And in those good practices, it is clear that for all, this is a global struggle. We must all work together. And we must all understand that there are different manifestations, and that terrorism has no religion, it has no creed, and of course Bangladesh as a Muslim nation knows this very well. The Islamophobia, which is common, which is affected, and I think it's important to recognize that globally this has no place, and in our as we seek to work together as a global community, and of course Canada and Bangladesh have worked in the past. I can testify to that, but this is a global challenge, and I look forward as a part of the next 50 years to greater cooperation between our two countries. That's up to others, but I thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your brilliant remarks. And you rightly mentioned that terrorism has no borders and it doesn't have any creed and religion and language. Thank you so much for the wonderful remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome our final speaker today in our session, Dr. Nuzhat Zaman, and she joined us from Edmonton. And we request you to share your thoughts as a member of the joint working group in strengthening commercial relations between these two countries and what you recommend in the future to bolster such initiatives. Ma'am, floor is yours.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. His Excellency High Commissioner Dr. Khalilur Rahman, Honorable Ambassadors, Assistant Deputy Ministers, Members of Parliament and distinguished speakers. It is my utmost honor to be invited to speak on this momentous event to celebrate the 50 years of Bangladesh and Canada friendship. I would like to tell the story through my lenses as a young Bangladeshi girl who lived through the war, the founding of Bangladesh as a country, and grow from an underdeveloped country to a country which has hope and future that is the envy of many nations. Canada was with us ever since the founding of Bangladesh as a nation. It has seen the rise of Bangladesh from a third world country to a middle income country. As I travel through my life journey, I get to participate in writing the story of the future of the two countries. Stronger ties in investments, trade, technology, education, and tourism are the themes of this story. I remember as a young girl living in Khulna shipyard, we had to flee because of the invasion by the Pakistani army in December 1971. With the help of the Indian Army, Bangladesh became independent, and Canada was one of the first developed nations to recognize our country on this very day, February 14th, 1972. Karma had it, the then Prime Minister of Canada was the late Right Honorable Pierre Trudeau, the father of the present Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau. Prime Minister Trudeau was less than 2 months old when Canada recognized Bangladesh. This young Prime Minister has picked up his father's legacy to build a strong relationship with Bangladesh. While Bangladesh was growing in the past 50 years, I went to Dhaka University, graduated with a bachelor's and then master's degree in pharmacy. My dream was to pursue a higher degree in Canada. With the support of a Commonwealth scholarship, I was able to attend the University of Alberta, where I received my PhD degree in pharmaceutical sciences in 1996. After graduation, I pursued a career in pharma industry and later became a Canadian citizen. In 2006, my husband and I founded Sinoveda Canada Inc., where we use our patented technology to develop both pharmaceuticals and natural health products. Some of our products are now on the Bangladesh market, and one of our key products is manufactured by a Bangladeshi pharmaceutical company. This becomes one of the bilateral trades between the two countries. As a dual citizen, I see more opportunities. Why? Bangladesh is no longer a third world country waiting for handouts. It is poised to become a middle income country. According to the IMF data, by 2024, the size of Bangladesh GDP will exceed Denmark, Hong Kong, Singapore, and UAE. Currently, with a GDP of close to US $400 billion, Bangladesh is the largest economy in South Asia. Unemployment rate is only 4.3%. More than 50% of the population of 170 million are in the age group of 15 to 24 with a literacy rate of 93%. Because of the great opportunities in the fast-growing economy, neighboring countries such as China, South Korea, Japan, and even Australia are investing heavily in Bangladesh's infrastructure and have established a strong foothold. During his tenure in Bangladesh, the former High Commissioner of Canada in Bangladesh, His Excellency Mr. Benoit Prefontaine, detected that Canada is lagging behind, missing out on many business opportunities. With his help, a joint working group was formed between the two countries in November last year. The aim is to identify bilateral trades that benefits both countries. As a Bangladeshi Canadian, I am honored to be named the co-chair for the Canadian side. The joint working group has identified investments, trade, education, and tourism as the top priorities. Currently, the trade between the two countries is less than 0.3% of their total export. The exports from Bangladesh are garments, leather, and plastic goods. The exports from Canada are canola oil seeds, wheat, cereals, vegetables, lentils, potash, iron and steel, aircraft, and some other machineries. To assist in its growth, Bangladesh needs investments in renewable and clean energies such as solar, wind, biogas, biomass, and water. Canada is a leading country in these areas. The government of Bangladesh offers incentives such as free land and tax exemptions to encourage foreign investments. Water management, information technology, pharmaceuticals, processed food, food ingredients, and aerospace are potential business opportunities for Canadians. It is Canada's policy to attract highly skilled professionals to build Canada's economy. The experience of Canadian University is that bridge building between countries and Canada through graduates of Canadian universities, and I can attest to that. Therefore, it is of mutual interest to increase the number of Bangladeshi students to be trained in Canada, like myself. Canada brings only 7,000 students from Bangladesh each year. Our goal is to increase this number significantly. Tourism is a developing business in Bangladesh. Given its natural beauty and rich history, the country is making itself tourist-friendly. In addition to attracting tourists, Canada is a target because Canadian tourists spend less than 2 million in Bangladesh each year. The joint working group will soon be submitting a report in few months where we will have the recommendations as to how the two countries can increase their bilateral trade and investments and build even a stronger relationship than we have today. Hope we will get the support from the two governments, and we wish we can accomplish our goals that we have set for this joint working group. With that, I would like to thank you all for your time. And once again, thank you for this opportunity to speak today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nuzhat. Ladies and gentlemen, as I promised, our today's session will remain incomplete if we do not hear the stories from Mr. Rabiul Alam, who patiently waited so long to share his thoughts and contribution in the liberation war struggle of Bangladesh. Mr. Rabiul Alam, floor is yours, sir, and thank you very much for your patience and sharing your thoughts this evening with us. Go ahead, sir. If you unmute, sir, kindly. Thank you. Sir, if you kindly unmute.
Are the doors open?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello.
we can, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I want to, first of all, I want to thank Honorable High Commissioner Dr. Khalilur Rahman for inviting me to this, this particular occasion. Before I get into discussion, I want to let our Honorable MP from Saskatchewan know that before Canada recognized Bangladesh, we, a group of students and landed immigrants expatriate in Canada, raised our Independence Day flag in December of 1971. And guess who raised the flag for us? It was Conservative MP Heath McQuarrie from Prince Edward Island. So it makes me feel so proud today, listening that Canadian government recognized Bangladesh in March 1972. And we, as a student and with our link with the politicians and the community, raised our flag earlier than official recognition. So I want to thank our respectable MP and let him know what kind of help and support we received from Canadian community at the time. I want to share the struggles we went through during 1971. It was same as the independence movement during the 60s that we went through under the guidance of our Bangabandhu. When the war broke out in March 1971, we were only a handful of Bangladeshis. Some of us are newly arrived new immigrants and some students. We hardly knew the Canadian mainstream society, little connections, and the news that military moved in and massacred thousands of people in Dhaka and in Bangladesh. We were devastated because we didn't know what's happening to our siblings at the university, to our parents in their homes, and our families in the outlying rural areas. We were desperate. Only news source was BBC and very scanty news through Canadian media. We didn't know what to turn to. We had to navigate through very uncharted territories, and very few Canadians knew about Bangladesh or Bangladeshis. They knew only about East Pakistan, but very limited way. So that's our start. And that was the most difficult and agonizing time that we lived through. So what we did, we had to go back to our days in Bangladesh, how we survived under uncharted situations. We demonstrated in front of Bangladesh Canadian High Commission. In front of Pakistani High Commission. At that time, Stanley Burke came to realize, who we are and what are we trying to tell Canadians. He contacted us, and from there on, he gave us some advice and guidance. Being few minority group, the only way we can get to Canadian public is through media campaign, and is through connecting with the community leaders and the politicians. But we didn't know how to. We are new. Our vocabulary was limited, but we started. So Stanley Burke introduced us to Prime Minister's Parliamentary Secretary at the time, Barney Danson. He listened to us, and it was in Stanley Burke's home. He listened to us, and he gave us some advice and some guidance. He also told us in Canada, there is no room for violence. There is no room for going out and burning flags. So we took that under advisement. We started writing letters to the newspaper. We started telling Canadian public that what Pakistan is telling about us, all about these massacres, branding us as miscreants, Indian agents. We are not true Pakistanis. We are not true Bangladeshis. So that was the situation, and that's the environment we had to navigate through. Very soon, Stanley Burke brought in Oxfam in our contact, and then the church groups. We spoke at the churches. We worked with the Oxfam. we worked with community groups. We spoke at the gatherings, explaining our situations to gain their ear and confidence. And we succeeded. The church groups then arranged some prayers to the churches. The newspapers started writing about the massacres. They sent their reporters. And then Stanley Bart wrote a very interesting article in the newspaper. What is going on inside Bangladesh? And what is Canada going to do about it? All the massacres, all the burning and looting, and the famine is on the horizon. So what is Canada going to do? What would be our role? Basically, he threw the challenge to the Canadian community. And that triggered response from more and more from the concerned groups, concerned aid groups, and that led into coalition of church groups, the relief organizations, Oxfam, to raise funding, and incorporated few of us into their efforts. So money started flowing in, and that was the beginning of getting aid to go to the displaced people inside East Pakistan and also the refugees in India. At the same time, what's happening is publicity from United States that it's a basket case country. It will never survive. It can never sustain. So that was one of the negative factors was hampering us getting political support. The other element was in the works at the time was fear of Quebec separating from Canada. And they could not openly, the government could not openly support breaking up of Pakistan. So at the time, the Indian government's approach was to stop killing, burning and looting, get the aid for the refugees, get Bangabandhu released, and have a compromise to sustain Pakistan as a country and stay a member of the Commonwealth country. That was the approach, sort of Canadian traditional, peacemaking approach. But at the time, Canada didn't realize the strength of the Bengalis and strength of the movement and our ability to sustain as a country. Anyway, the situation changed. The opposition MPs became our spokesperson. At the time, Robert Stanfield, the opposition leader of the House, he listened to us greatly. He raised questions in the House of Commons. The NDP foreign affairs critic raised questions in the House of Commons, basically challenging at the time Mitchell Sharp, the foreign minister, to spell out to the House how much aid is going to Canada, spell out that aid is not going to the hands of Pakistanis because that aid will never receive the refugees and the suffering people inside the country. So that kind of exposure helped the Canadian government to make sure that the aid will go directly through the NGOs to the people, those who are the victims of the situation. We thought that was a significant turning point, and also indirectly turning the opinions of the government that yes, Bangladesh is a viable reality, it's a viable, and we have to be on the path of supporting this country. Another turning point was when the ocean-going vessel Padma was in the Montreal port to load some arms shipment destined for Pakistan. We were alerted by the longshoremen of Montreal. I undertook a press briefing to Toronto Star and Globe and Mail at the time, and that triggered off huge repercussions within the Canadian public. It triggered responses from the House of Commons. about the Canadian policies concerning arms shipment. It also triggered responses from the United States about the state's agreement with Canada. So by exposing it, I think it was very helpful at the time. The other point, significant point I would like to mention is Dr. Rahman Soman visiting Canada. We organized a press conference chaired by Stanley Bart, and Mr. Bart helped Dr. Soman to explain to the Canadian public about what's going on inside. And that also raised a lot of questions to the provincial legislators, to the House of Commons, and again, the role played by Robert Stanfield those days was very, very useful and helpful in the House. So toward the end, I think people recognize who the Bangladeshis are and learned about our situation. We were invited to many gatherings. We were known by the groups. We had many friends. And when I look back to that time and today, and listening to all the speakers about how far the country has come, the progress made, and the relationship between Canada and Bangladesh, has grown. It is really, really heartening and really proud to be here today. And looking back, yes, our dream is being fulfilled. And our dream is being fulfilled, not only by the sacrifice of the people of our country, the mothers, the children, and women, and our martyrs of freedom fighters, their sacrifice, and also the help from the friendly countries, the amount of help and amount of prayers and the support they gave us. So it's a proud moment today, and I thank you all. It's great to look back to.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Such a wonderful recollection of the struggle that Bangladesh endured in 1971 and your contribution. So we express our deep gratitude. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our today's webinar. And before I formally conclude, let me also bring now His Excellency, the High Commissioner of Bangladesh to Canada, Dr. Khalil Rahman, for his closing remarks. Screen is yours, sir. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Kasar. I won't be really saying much because, especially our Canadian friends and also our, very respected Bhai told us he's also a Canadian Bangladeshi. So I think they are better ambassadors than me, and I'm overwhelmed and by the kind words, love and care they showed. They just spelled out for my motherland, for our motherland, for Bangladesh. So I thank them all for their participation and saying all the good things about Bangladesh, which I believe we deserve too. I just, like to say that, in the spirit of long-standing bond of friendship and as trusted and tested friends, to mark this special day, the Bangladesh Foreign Minister and the Canadian International Development Minister spoke this morning virtually though, to really take stock of our collaboration over the last 50 years and how the two countries can go forward for next 50 years, hands in hands. Not only that, the two foreign ministers also issued statement to mark this special day. So this is a special day to really take stock of what happened over the last 50 years, how government of Canada, Canadian people stood strong and extended their support. Not only over the last 50 years, even before our birth, during the War of Liberation, as we heard from our respected Rabiul Bhai, and I'm very proud of the Bangladeshi expatriates who played, that important important role of that part of our history. And that's why and how I always welcome my expatriate brothers and sisters to take part in the ongoing socio-economic development of the country that is now going on under the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister. As High Commissioner, I really look forward to working very closely with my Canadian friends and Canadian government. I am a person who will always make one step more than my counterparts to really take our friendship, take our collaboration and cooperation forward. So that is the commitment I would like to make on this very special day, that I will work with my Canadian friends, my expatriate Bangladeshi brothers and sisters, to really see that Bangladesh achieves the status of developed nation by 2041. So that's my commitment, but we will require the kind of support Government of Canada and Canadian people showed over the last 50 years. And we are hopeful that, and I'm sure they would be beside us to take our journey to that point. I just end by saying that the two honorable members of parliament talked about the generosity, hospitality of Bangladeshi people. And I would like to just extend an open invitation, not only these two honorable members of parliament, to all the members of the parliament, before going to Bangladesh, to visit my place to have the taste of Bangladeshi food. So that is my open invitation to all of them, not only all of them, all my Canadian friends, that whenever they feel free, we will be very pleased to host our friends and brothers in this country. So it's already late, it's a Valentine's Day. I'm sure people have their dinners with their families and friends, loved ones. So I want to thank you all for your kind participation, to be with us, to mark this special day. And I also like to thank Dr. Kausar Ahmed to moderate the session. And I look forward to working closely with you all. Thank you so much. And I end by paying my homage to our founding father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who led the War of Independence, and under whose leadership we found this independence, found this country a democratic, secular country for which we stand for. And the 3 million brothers and sisters who sacrificed their lives, and 200 to 400,000 sisters who lost their sanctity for this great country, for our great independence. So I thank you all once again to be with us. Jai Bangla, Jai Bangabandhu, Bangladesh, Chirojibo.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, His Excellency, for your closing remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my turn to formally conclude. And I would like to begin by saying that we deeply appreciate the time and energy of Honorable Member of Parliaments, Assistant Deputy Minister, ambassadors, and especially Ambassador Shahid Al-Haq, who joined us very early in Dhaka, Bangladesh, entrepreneur Dr. Nuzhat, and last but not the least, Mr. Rabiul Alam. Your presence, your words would remain with us, and of course virtually, and we'll rewind and listen to your encouraging and inspiring contribution this evening. Thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, Bangladesh is marching ahead. Bangladesh is marching forward. You have heard from the Member of Parliaments the very emergence of Bangladesh in 1971. Within the last 50 years, Bangladesh has proven itself. It has taken a space in the world affairs, in the field of economy, in the field of peacekeeping, security, and so on and so forth. So Bangladesh is going to march forward even more in the next 50 years. In this very special month of language movement, February, what we call, and we enshrine the total, our contribution to the martyrs in this month, and we would like to recognize their contribution to establish the mother language as the mother tongue of Bangladeshis. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Bangabandhu Center for Bangladesh Studies in Canada, we thank you very much for being with us. And in our room, I see more than 50 audience, those who joined and patiently heard and shared their thoughts in chat and in other ways. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate your time. Long live Bangladesh and Canada and its comradeship, camaraderie, and relationship in the next 50 years. Miigwech, good night. Wherever you are, stay well and stay safe. And once again, happy Valentine's Day. Bye-bye.